Hi, hi everyone. This is Devin once again. This video right now is about my thoughts on Patrick Ewing being hired as head coach of Georgetown University. First of all, let me say I am always appreciative when African American coaches get opportunities to get head coaching jobs. I'm always happy about that, whether it's the NBA or the NFL or in college level, no matter the sport. But as far as Patrick Ewing being the head coach at Georgetown, I don't think it's going to turn out well for him. And these are the reasons why. First of all, the Big East is not the same Big East that it was when he played in the 80s. You don't have Syracuse in there anymore. You don't have Pitt in there anymore. You don't have Louisville in there even. You still have Villanova there, and I know they just came off winning a national championship, but still, it's not the same Big East. And also because I think Patrick Ewing is more suited to be an NBA head coach than a college head coach, because a college head coaching job is basically 7 days a week, 24 hours, 365 days a year. And as opposed to being an NBA coach where you have the regular season, you have the postseason, but then you have an off season. And also, I think that he would be able to resonate more with professional players as opposed to 16, 17, 18-year-old college kids, whether it be coaching as well as in recruiting players. He's going to talk about the Georgetown tradition and, Hoya paranoia, but 16, 17-year-old kids, 18-year-old kids, 15-year-old kids, 14-year-old kids, because of the AAU circuit nowadays, you have to start recruiting kids when they're 14, 15. They're not going to resonate with Hoya paranoia or himself. They don't even know about, the Hoya paranoia, the Georgetown tradition, that he's attached to. So it's not going to resonate with young high school kids in the AAU circuit. So he's going to have that going against him. Not to mention, the game has changed and evolved where the big man has become diminished and becoming diminishing. College basketball and even the NBA has become more of a point guard / guard wing oriented game. So you have to be able to recruit great point guards, great guards, great wings. And I'm not sure that 16, 17, 18-year-old guards would be attracted to Patrick Ewing because he's a big man himself by nature. And he's played, and he knows about coaching the big men. So I do think he could bring in talented big men to Georgetown. But is he going to be able to bring in great guards that can get those great big men the ball and set them up, those big men, for success? I'm not so sure about that. Now, even though he may put a great coaching staff around him, there's just something about it where I just don't think this is going to end well. And And I think that Georgetown, the trend you see in college basketball is you're seeing more and more schools hire younger head coaches. You know, you got Indiana, they hired Archie Miller, who's a relatively young coach. LSU, you know, they hired Will Wade, who's 34, a young coach, both those guys, they've been coaching in college basketball. So they have college basketball coaching experience. And they're used to going out on the recruiting trail, going to AAU circuits and recruiting these 16, 17-year-old kids. Patrick Ewing is not used to doing that. And if I'm a 16, 17-year-old kid, and if I have to choose to play for a young coach who's full of energy and exciting versus a guy in Patrick Ewing who's 54, who is been in the NBA basically all of his coaching career, I might lean toward going with the younger coaches. And especially if I'm a guard or a talented wing, I would probably lean towards going to play for the younger coaches. Play for those younger coaches than Patrick Ewing. So, is he gonna, he's probably gonna be, big men dominant at Georgetown, which that's his area of expertise, his trademark. He should do that. But on the flip side, though, what kind of talented guards are you going to be able to attract being big men eccentric? So that, and also it was time for a change to go. Look, I have nothing but great respect for John Thompson Jr. He's one of the greatest coaches of all time in the history of college basketball. But these last three hires for Georgetown, Craig Esherick, John Thompson III, and now Patrick Ewing, what do they all have in common? They're all tied to him. And so far, the track record has not showed very well with all these coaches who have followed him, who all have a tie to his tree. I do think that now was the time for Georgetown to go in the direction of a younger coach who has no ties to John Thompson Jr. And the Hoyer tradition. The game has changed. I think it was time for them to go away from that and go to someone younger with new blood. Someone outside of the Georgetown tradition who has new blood, who has fresh new blood, and bring in new principles and philosophies and ideas to a whole new vision of Georgetown basketball. But they were kind of forced into this position to have to hire him because Mike Bray wasn't interested. Shaka Smart wasn't interested. Tommy Amaker from Harvard wasn't interested. So in a way, Georgetown kind of was put in a position where they didn't really have a choice. Archie Miller, who left Dayton to go to Indiana, I doubt he had any interest in Georgetown. So that also goes to another reason why I don't think this is going to end well. Because Georgetown as a job is not as appealing, is not that great of a job as a lot of people in Georgetown may think. You're in Washington D.C., you're in the nation's capital. You have a great talent base in the D.C. area, and that's going to be the key for Patrick Ewing to be successful, is locking down that D.C. area and keeping Jay Wright and Villanova out of there and taking the top recruits out of there, which is going to be a lot harder said than done when you got Jay Wright, who has been coaching in college basketball for years and years, and now he's got a national championship to recruit with in that area. So that's going to make it even harder for Patrick Ewing to make inroads in that DC area. So because of that alone, not to mention you have other schools, you've got ACC schools, recruiting that area, like Maryland, Virginia. You've got other Big East schools that are recruiting that area. You've got Maryland, who's in the Big Ten now, recruit that DC area. So just the competition in the recruiting alone is going to be tough for him. He's got a tough challenge ahead of him. And not to mention, the next few years, they're not going to be very good. That roster, the cupboard is bare there. They've lost all their top recruits from this class, including a point guard. So, you look at St. John's did the same thing with Chris Mullin 2 years ago, and Chris Mullin has been struggling. He's not getting really the top recruits in New York City because things have changed. Things have evolved. St. John's is a commuter school. That kind of works against them. The Big East also is not what it used to be. A lot of kids are flocking to play in the ACC or the Big Ten or even the Pac-12. I just don't think that it's going to turn out well with Patrick Ewing at Georgetown, and I hope that's not the case, because I'm rooting for him. I'm rooting for the brother. I want him to succeed. I hope he succeeds at Georgetown. I hope he brings back Hoya Paranoia. But just analyzing the situation, I just don't see it happening. Because if it was possible, if this was a great job, then why all these coaches turned it down to stay where they are? Because it's Georgetown. It's still a name job, even though it may not be a great job, but it still is Georgetown. Georgetown, you compare that to, say, Harvard or even Notre Dame in terms of basketball sense. So, and the fact that they had no interest at all kind of tells you what the perception of Georgetown as a job is. So, that's all I wanted to say on this. If you agree with me, disagree with me, put your comments in the box below. Subscribe to the channel. And bye.